Tawhid, or oneness. The object of all the prophets sent by him was to effect the worship of man and other creatures and to establish the worship of God. The service they rendered to the world was to make the formula, "There is no one worthy of worship but Allah," shine in the earth as it shines in heaven. The greatest of them, therefore, is he who did the most in making this formula shine with brilliance, who first exposed the impotence of false gods and proved their nothingness on the basis of reason and power, and then, when he had proved everything, he left a memory of his decisive victory in the shape of the formula, "There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the apostle of Allah." He did not utter the formula, "There is no God but Allah," as an empty boast. Rather, he first provided the proofs and exposed the error of the false beliefs, and then called upon the people to see that there was no God besides him. Who had broken all their power, and who had shattered all their pride? As a reminder, therefore, of this proved fact, he taught the blessed formula, "There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the apostle of Allah." Chapter 4. Evidence from Books of History. As the following chapter contains evidence of various kinds, it is divided for the sake of clearness of sequence into several sections, which are set out below. Section 1. Evidence from Islamic books which contain a mention of Jesus' journey. In Rawsat Safa, a well-known book of history, on pages 130 to 135, occurs in the Persian language an account which, briefly translated, is as follows, quote, "Jesus, on whom be peace, was named the Messiah because he was a great traveler. He wore a woolen scarf on his head and a woolen cloak on his body. He had a stick in his hand. He used to wander from country to country and from city to city. At nightfall he would stay where he was. He ate jungle vegetables, drank jungle water, and went on his travels on foot. His companions, in one of his travels, once bought a horse for him. He rode the horse one day, but as he could not make any provision for the feeding of it, he returned it. Journeying from his country, he arrived at Nasibain, which was at a distance of several hundred miles from his home. With him were a few of his disciples, who he sent into the city to preach. In the city, however, there were current wrong and unfounded rumors about Jesus, on whom be peace, and his mother. The governor of the city, therefore, arrested the disciples and then summoned Jesus. Jesus miraculously healed some persons and exhibited other miracles. The king of the territory of Nasibain, therefore, with all his armies and his people, became a follower of his. The legend of the coming down of food contained in the Holy Koran belongs to the days of his travels." End quote. This, in brief, is the statement of Rawsat Safa. The author of the book, however, has ascribed many an absurd and irrational miracle to Jesus, which I will not mention here, and keeping my account free from falsehood and absurd exaggerations, I turn to the real point at issue, which leads to the conclusion that Jesus, peace be on him, in the course of his travels had arrived at Nasibain. This Nasibain is a place between Mosul and Syria, which in English maps has been called Nasibus. If one travels from Syria towards Persia, one would pass through Nasibain, which is at a distance of 450 miles from Jerusalem. Mosul is nearly 48 miles from Nasibain and 500 miles from Jerusalem. The frontier of Persia is only at a distance of 100 miles from Mosul. This means that Nasibain is 150 miles from the frontier of Persia. The eastern frontier of Persia touches the town of Herat in Afghanistan. That is, Herat lies on the western frontier of Afghanistan in the direction of the Persian territory and is about 900 miles from the western boundary of Persia. From Herat up to the Khyber Pass, the distance is about 500 miles. Here follows the map showing the route followed by Jesus. The map shows the route adopted by Jesus in his journey to Kashmir. The object of his journey was that he should meet the Israelites whom the king, Shalmaneser, had taken captive to Media. It will be noticed that in the maps published by Christians, Media is shown towards the south of the Sea of Khizar, Azov, where today is Persia. This means that Media was at any rate a part of the land which today constitutes Persia. The eastern frontier of Persia is adjacent to Afghanistan. There is the sea towards the south and the Turkish Empire towards the west. If the report in the Rawsat Safa is correct, It appears that by traveling to Nasibain, Jesus intended to come to Afghanistan through Persia and to invite to the truth the lost Jews who had come to be known as Afghans. The word Afghan appears to be of Hebrew origin. It is a derivative which means brave. It appears that at the height of their victories they adopted this name for themselves. Footnote. In the Torah, there was a promise to the Jews that if they believed in the last prophet, they would be given, after passing through much suffering, kingship and rulership. That promise was fulfilled by the 10 tribes of Israel adopting Islam. That is why there have been great kings among Afghans as well as among Kashmiris. There is a letter in the 14th section of the first chapter of the history in Greek of the Creed of Eusebius, translated by a Londoner, Heinmer by name, in 1650 A.D., which shows that a king, Abjeros by name, invited Jesus from the land beyond the Euphrates to his court. The letter sent by Abjeros to Jesus and the reply to it are full of much falsehood and exaggeration. This much, however, seems to be true, that the king, having been apprised of the cruelties of the Jews, invited Jesus to his court to give him a refuge. The king probably believed that he was not a true prophet. End of footnote. Return to main text. In short, Jesus came to the Punjab after passing through Afghanistan with the ultimate intention of going to Kashmir after seeing the Punjab and Hindustan. It would be noticed that Chitral and a strip of the Punjab separate Kashmir from Afghanistan. If one travels from Afghanistan to Kashmir through the Punjab, one has to journey over a distance of 80 miles, or about 135 kilometers. Jesus, however, wisely adopted the route through Afghanistan so that the lost tribes of Israel, known as Afghans, might profit from him. The eastern frontier of Kashmir touches Tibet. From Kashmir he could easily go to Tibet. Having come to the Punjab, he had no difficulty in wandering through the important places of Hindustan before going to Kashmir or Tibet. It is therefore quite possible, as some old historical records of this country show, that Jesus may have seen Nepal, Benares, and other places. He then must have gone to Kashmir through Jammu or Rawalpindi. As he belonged to a cold country, it is certain that he stayed in these territories only through the winter, and by the end of March or the beginning of April must have started for Kashmir. As Kashmir resembles Sham, Syria, and its surrounding country, he must have taken up permanent residence in this land. It is possible, moreover, that he may have stayed for some time in Afghanistan, and it is not impossible that he may have married in that country. One of the tribes of Afghans is known as Isahel. It would not be surprising if they are descendants of Jesus. It is to be regretted, however, that the history of the Afghans is in a confused state. It is therefore difficult to arrive at anything definite by studying their tribal accounts. There is no doubt, however, that the Afghans are Israelites, like the Kashmiris. Those who have taken a contrary view in their books have been misled to the extreme. They have not made a minute study of the matter. The Afghans admit that they are the descendants of Qais, and Qais belongs to Israel. It is, however, not necessary to prolong this discussion here. I have already dealt with the question thoroughly in one of my books. Here I am giving an account of the journey of Jesus through Nasibain, Afghanistan, the Punjab, and on to Kashmir and Tibet. He was named the traveling prophet, nay, the leader of travelers, on account of this very long journey. A Muslim savant, that is, Ibn al-Walid al-Fakhri al-Tartushi al-Maliki, who was renowned for his learning, states about Jesus on page 6 of his book, Siraj al-Maluk, published by the Matba Harriya of Egypt in 1306 A.H., quote, "Where is Isa the Ruhullah and the Kalimatullah, who was the leader of the righteous and the chief of travelers?" Meaning that he was dead, and that even a great man like him had departed from this world. It should be noticed that this learned authority calls Jesus not merely traveler, but the chief of travelers. Likewise, on page 461 of Lisan ul-Arab, it is stated, quote, "Jesus was named the Messiah because he